The vanishing heir. It was a quiet evening in Blackwood, and the Montgomery estate, a grand mansion overlooking the valley, was alive with music, laughter, and clinking glasses. The Montgomerys were one of the oldest and wealthiest families, their names synonymous with power. Tonight, a gala in honor of Rachel Montgomery's engagement to Mark Forster, a local businessman, was underway. Guests mingled under chandeliers, sipping champagne and admiring the opulent decorations. Rachel Montgomery, the only daughter of Charles Montgomery, was the centerpiece of the event. Her beauty and charm made her the center of attention, her laugh infectious and eyes bright with excitement. However, in the hours that followed, no one could have predicted the dark turn the evening would take. As the night wore on, guests began to notice Rachel's absence. She had stepped away for a moment to freshen up, but when the clock struck midnight and the last song played, she had not returned. Her absence seemed odd, but it wasn't until Charles Montgomery, Rachel's father, went to her room that the alarming truth came to light. Rachel was gone. A frantic search ensued. The estate was combed over, with no sign of her. The police were called, but even their efforts were futile. There was no ransom note, no sign of a struggle, and no hint of where she had gone. The only clue was a broken necklace found in the garden, a family heirloom, a gift from her late mother. The shattered pieces lay scattered on the grass, as if hastily discarded. The Montgomerys were thrust into the eye of the storm. Their perfect family image was shattered. Charles Montgomery, though shaken, maintained a calm demeanor in front of the press, though his eyes betrayed his anxiety. His son, Daniel Montgomery, was frantic, pacing around the estate and questioning everyone. Detective Emily Hayes was assigned to the case. Known for her sharp mind, she arrived the next morning and was briefed on the situation. "Start by interviewing the guests," the lead officer said. "We're treating this as a possible kidnapping, though the lack of a ransom note makes things tricky." Emily nodded, stepping into the mansion to begin her investigation. The first person she spoke to was Mark Forster, Rachel's fiancé. He was distraught, barely able to contain his emotions as he recounted the last moments he spent with Rachel at the gala. They had danced, laughed, and shared a private conversation. Mark had gone to the bar, but when he returned, she was gone. He assumed she'd gone to the bathroom, but when she didn't return, he began searching for her. Mark seemed sincere, but something in his eyes didn't sit right with Emily. Next, she spoke with Daniel Montgomery. He seemed distant, as if emotionally detached. His answers were curt, almost defensive. He claimed he had been in the study most of the evening, working on personal matters. Emily pressed for more details, but he was reluctant to offer any. When she asked if he had spoken to Rachel, he hesitated before nodding. "Just a quick chat in the hallway," he said, his eyes darting. She was fine. Emily wasn't convinced. There was something about Daniel's behavior that didn't match the urgency of the situation. She decided to dig deeper. Rachel had been planning to sell off part of the family's estate to settle her father's growing debts. Despite appearances, the Montgomery family was facing financial ruin. Charles Montgomery had been hiding his financial struggles for years. But Rachel had known the truth, and she had quietly been preparing to sell assets to help pay off the family's creditors. Emily uncovered troubling secrets. A number of transactions involving large sums of money had been made in the weeks leading up to Rachel's disappearance. The money had disappeared into offshore accounts, and the trail led to business partners with organized crime connections. Daniel's involvement with questionable figures became a focal point. He had been in contact with a notorious crime syndicate, using his father's position for his own dealings. The most shocking discovery came when Emily received an anonymous tip from a local informant, who claimed to have seen Rachel the night she disappeared. The informant led her to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Blackwood. Inside, Emily found Rachel alive but bruised and disheveled. She was barely conscious, her eyes wide with fear as she clutched a broken piece of the necklace that had been found in the garden. "Rachel, what happened?" Emily asked gently. "I didn't want this," Rachel whispered. "I never wanted to hurt my family. But I had no choice." Rachel revealed that her father, Charles Montgomery, had masterminded her disappearance. Fearing the collapse of his empire, he had orchestrated the event to collect on a life insurance policy to cover the family's debts. Rachel had been forced to fake her own disappearance to help her father avoid ruin. The broken necklace had been planted as part of the ruse. The tracking device inside it was meant to mislead authorities, while Charles and Daniel kept up the facade of a missing heir. Rachel had become terrified as the situation spiraled. She feared for her life and the consequences of her father's actions. As the truth came to light, Charles Montgomery was arrested for orchestrating his daughter's kidnapping. His betrayal left a bitter taste in those who had trusted him. Daniel was also arrested, though his involvement was less direct. He had helped cover up the scheme, but his actions were not as calculated as Charles's. The family's empire crumbled in the aftermath of the scandal. Rachel, though traumatized, rebuilt her life, away from her family's secrets. The case was a sobering reminder of how far people would go to protect their wealth and power. For Emily Hayes, it was just another case, but one that would stay with her for a long time. She had seen the darkest corners of human nature, and it was a sight she would never forget. As the investigation closed, the people of Blackwood tried to move on, but the Montgomery name would never be the same. It stood as a cautionary tale of how ambition, greed, and deception could shatter even the most established families. For Rachel, the road to recovery would be long and uncertain, but she had finally broken free from her past. The truth had come to light, but at a great cost. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe. It's free, and you'll never miss a mystery. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.